Ila chindela lenywa ila muwa matinda batomu ndabiye pete kabawelane Jesu bien ngene kabawelano ila chindela lenywa wa ila chindela lenywa ila muwa matinda batomu ndabiye pete kabawelane Jesu bien ngene kabawelano ila chindela lenywa wa. They say until the lion learns to tell his own story, the tale of the hunt would always glorify the hunter. That is why it is very important to tell our own story. We have heard his story, her story, their story. Time now to tell our own story. The lion story. This is the African history class. And my name, Black Rasta. Now today we are taking you down history lane. We're going to tell you the story of the first woman to own a car and drive a car in the Gold Coast. This story is about to get interesting. Now the first woman to drive a car in this country, the first woman to buy her own car and drive her own car in this country, today called Ghana, in the days called the Gold Coast, was who? Where was she from? What was her trade? What kind of woman was she exactly? This is the class you have been waiting for. And I would just want to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's called the Afreekan History Class, and African is spelled Afreekan. History is History. Class is Klass. Click on the notification button so that you will be reminded to watch us every time we come your way with authentic, accurate history. This is the African History Class. Now today we are telling you the story that has never been told. Today we are taking you all the way to the Volta region, to the Chief's Palace. Sovie Chief's Palace. Now Sovie is located in the Volta region of Ghana. It's not too far away from Vakpo. And that is where we are telling our story from. The chief of Sovie had a very pretty daughter. Her name was Susana Akosua Dei. Susana Akosua Dei was so pretty. Every man in the area liked her. And as she was growing up and blossoming, it looked like everywhere she went, she turned heads. The young men did all they could so that they could at least lay her down. But she was a proud royal. She grew into a very beautiful woman. And every time she came out to willingly go to the water side and fetch water, many men would like to help her carry the water. And every time she came out just to play games with her friends, men would be lurking in the shadows, stealing glimpses at her hourglass shape. Akosua Dei. As she reached puberty and moved a little ahead, something interesting happened. Can we rewind? Can we rewind? Can we rewind? Today we are telling the story of Susana Akosua Dei. She was born in 1861, circa 1861. And she was born in Sovie at the Chief's Palace. She was a beautiful woman. Every man liked her. She was the dream of every suitor of her husband. But it shocked her when, at a certain age, her father, the chief, came up to her and said, listen, I have a friend who has been so good to me. In fact, when I was even vying to be chief, he supported me so much. He's a little old, but this is the man I want you to marry, so that at least I can pay him for some of the things he did for me. Susana Akosua Dei didn't like the idea, because there were other young men in the area that she was getting friendly with, and she hoped that with time she would get to know them better and give her love to one of those. But to a man that she had never seen, she didn't even know. She wasn't sure she was going to be able to survive in that kind of marriage. But the father insisted. The marriage was done. She gave birth to 2 children. There was a day she came out and looked around and told herself that no, she couldn't pretend to be happy in this marriage. She never warned anybody. She took to her heels and was out. When did she leave the house? This was around 1897. And 1897, how old was she? She was 36. 36, right? Yes, 36. Remember, she was born in 1861. So, in 1897, she was 36. She left her children at home and headed towards the Ashanti region. There are some Evers who speak Twi fluently. Now, this happened because of the wars. A lot of Ashantis or Wakans moved into those areas in the Volta region, dominated the areas, and their names were even given to some Voltarians. So it's not surprising today that you go to places like Peki and you have people called Opari, Kojo, Mensa, Kwame, and all those Akan names. It was because of the movement of the Akans during the war into these areas, and after the war, they decided to settle, and they became Ewe Akans. She was one of the Ewe Akans. That was how come she picked up the name Akosua Dei. Akosua Dei arrived in Kumasi, in fact the outskirts of Kumasi, in 1897. That was around the Yaa Asantewaa War time. Guns were blazing all over the place. The British were fighting the Ashantis for the golden stool. And she was caught in the crossfire. The British soldiers saw her and picked her up. They realized she was speaking Akan, and they wanted to execute her because any Akan to the British was an enemy at that time. But when she told them she was coming from Sovie and she was Ewe, they were surprised. They decided to keep her and use her for espionage purposes, spy. So she would go into the Akan area, go to Yaa Asantewa's people, listen to whatever they were doing and saying, and she would come and report back to the British. So all the war plans of Yaa Asantewaa and the Akans that she was privy to, she reported back as a spy to the British. And in no time, the British won the war. Yaa Asantewaa was captured. In fact, they even captured Prempeh I and carried him all the way to Mahe on the Seychelles Island. Yaa Asantewaa never came back. She died in Mahe. But Prempeh I came back, and whilst he was away, the Ashantis had no king. They were waiting for the arrival of Prempeh I. He came back with the Bible. He had become a Christian with even a change of name and he was now going around preaching the Bible. The Akans or the Ashantis were not so happy, seeing that their king had been metamorphosed. He had become a Christian. But today we are not talking about Prempeh the first. We are talking about the first woman who bought her own car and drove a car. When the war was over, the Yaa Asantewaa War, the British compensated their spy. Yes, Susana Akosua Dei. They taught her how to make alcohol, British alcohol. They bought her some of the equipment that she would need to be able to make quality alcohol. It was in this business she was and made so much money. She had plantations all over Kumasi. She made so much money. She bought her own car just around 1915. She became the first indigene to buy and drive her own car right there in the Gold Coast, the whole of Kumasi. By 1915, Nkrumah was only how old? How old? By 1915, 6 years old. Today we are talking about the first Gold Coast citizen to buy her own car and drive it, the first female. This was how Akosua Dei was able to make her money. But interestingly, the British also compensated her. What did they do? She told the British she was running away from her father who had forced her into a marriage. So the British decided that they would find her a good man to marry. So they lined up about 11 Gold Coast soldiers and asked her to look at them and choose the one that she wanted. You know who she chose? She chose Major Sergeant Mahama. Does that name ring a bell? That's the father of Salifu Dagarti. So today, we are actually talking about the mother of Salifu Dagarti. Salifu Dagarti who took the bullets for Kwame Nkrumah. This is the mother we are talking about. She was called Susana Akosua Dei. She was the first black woman, indigene of the Gold Coast, to buy and drive her own car. She was the wealthiest woman in the Gold Coast just after the British left. Today, we have the pleasure to talk about this great black woman. In fact, she outlived her son. Her son, Salifu Dagarti, was half Ewe and half Dagarti. He spoke fluent Ewe and also spoke some Dagari and fluent Twi as well in English. Salifu Dagarti died in 1964. In fact, on the 2nd day of January. And Susana Akosua Dei died at the age of 113 in 1974. August of 1974. Now we are able to remember when she died because that was when we had Nifa Nifa. Remember in August 1974, the Achampong government decided to move Ghanaians from driving on the left to the right side. And everywhere you will see the signpost, keep right, keep right, keep right. 1974. That was the year I was born. In fact, I was born the following month. Nifa Nifa, or driving on the right, was the 4th day of August in 1974. Yes, 4th August 1974. And I was born the following month, the 2nd of September 1974. Today, we have the pleasure to talk about the great black woman, the wonderful woman who was the first one to drive a car that she bought and owned right here. We are unable to tell you what kind of car it was, but it was one of the most luxurious cars in this part of the world. Susana Akosua Dei. She died at the age of 113. Yes. Yes, in August 1974. And today we remember you. We remember you. We remember you. She died whilst Nifa Nifa was going on in the days of I.K. Echampo, who ruled Ghana from the 13th of January 1972 all the way down to the 5th day of January 1978, when a palace coup removed him. Today we remember this great black woman. She made a lot of money and she used her money to support a lot of farmers. She used her money to help so many different people. Today we remember you, Mommy. Mommy, we remember you. Susana Akosua Dei. She died at the age of 113 in August 1974. May her body, mind, and soul rest in perfect peace as we remember her today. Mommy, Damil Fabiewate. Mommy, uni yaminko. Baba now. Baba now. Baba now. Ao Davi. Baba now. Baba now. Ao Davi. Baba now. Baba now. Jakpata beda vio. Mwenye ko. Agbeno heavy. Magba fumato. Ao Davi. Baba now. Baba now. Baba now. Uni yaminko. Uni yaminko. Uni yaminko wate. Uni yaminko. Uni yaminko. Uni yaminko. Bye bye. And in the burden of knowledge, I ask you, now that you know what will you do? Be a man you learn mini about Yezuda Kagane Mezaka yine. Yeah, Papango Bukaya Nang Fifi Yanu Kainawo, Banayo, a then Lela and Jima Singer Bekone, Lela and Jima Singer Berry. In the burden of knowledge, I ask you, how would the life story of Susana Akosua Dei impact your own life in contemporary times? It's been the African History Class. And my name, Black Rasta.
Ila chindela lenywa. Ila muwa matinda batomu. Ndabiye pete kaba welane. Jesu bien ngene kaba welano. Ila chindela lenywa wa. Ila chindela lenywa. Ila muwa matinda batomu. Ndabiye pete kaba welane. Jesu bien ngene kaba welano. Ila chindela lenywa wa.